No?
Live.
I enjoyed the ceremony.
Oh my gosh, did that take me by surprise?
I got such great pictures of you.
Really? You didn't get one of me crying. If you did,
No,
delete it.
I got you smiling. There was those ones that you liked on my Facebook.
You know the one I really liked, and I didn't know they took it? I was sort of leaning on the coast, and my hood was down, and I was listening to them, and I had a very seldom smile, but I like, maybe I was dreaming or something, but I was smiling. That is a pretty nice picture,
You were just soaking it all in.
soaking it in.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that. I was gonna put a picture of the, on my, I have two Facebook, which is ridiculous. Carmen Batavio and then the Carmen Beats Honey.
Yeah.
I would like to combine them because I really don't use Facebook. On the honey I do because I get those high updates and, you know, what the bees are doing. I just set one up, I guess, 2 days ago. I like to give people an update because they're interested in it.
Yeah.
But I haven't used the other one.
I can send you some.
I got tons. You know what? Send me a couple of the nicer ones. Karen might want them. She's going to use them for my obituary when she shoots me. Because if I give her much more grief, she handed me the car keys and she said, please, drive, go to the mountains, go somewhere, pick up Eric, go to South Carolina, go to Georgia.
Tell me where you want me to
Send them to, well, my email.
Yeah.
Email?
Yeah.
We could well, don't send it to Township. Carmen R. Batavio. It's my full name, Carmen R. Batavio at AOL. I'm the old fashioned AOL.
Yeah.
Fire company uses Gmail, and I don't even know how to open half the stuff that I get from Goshen.
All right, I'll send it.
It'd be nice, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple.
Thank you for coming out, that was nice. Did you know about it, or did you just come out for that?
Fancy job.
Now, I knew about it. and,
That'll work, yeah. That's okay.
Derek,
You'll figure it out.
Thing about it, before, and I actually put it on my Facebook too.
Not about the award, just about the award. Did you know about the award?
I knew about the ribbon cutting.
Okay. Hey, Chief, you got a spot up here. You want me to use
That's
it?
unusual.
Carmen's
Do you want me to
bringing
use it?
everybody over there.
You should use
I can
it.
answer to Brenda. I've answered to a lot worse things than Brenda.
Worse things.
How you doing, love? You look good. The bees are doing good.
Did you pull the hives from behind the station? Because I've not seen any bees all summer.
Oh, I was just out there, well, before my surgery, I drove out, and I got a lot of honey out of there this year.
Did you really? 'Cause
First
I
year
didn't
that
see
I've done really good. I don't know what changed.
People stopped using pesticides and other things.
Well, I think that's a lot of it, that people started using more generic. But I got a very nice yield out of there this year. I only have 4 hives. And
I walked down there like 3 times over the course of the summer and I did not see any bees, so I thought maybe they lost the hives.
no, what time of day?
All right, it's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call to order the Board of Supervisors meeting for East Goshen Township of Tuesday, September 21st. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a moment of silence. We're going to remember our WECO police officers and our Goshen Fire Department, as well as all the houses that service our community. May they be safe.
I just want to announce the meeting tonight will be live streamed on YouTube and available for view. Chairman's report. First, some good news. We found out yesterday that we were gold recipients from the National Recreation and Park Association. This is the 3rd year in a row. We haven't won platinum. They pick out of the 5 top parks parks in the country. They pick out one platinum winner. And I'll just comment that those parks, you see something like Evanston, Illinois Park and Rec with a staff of 21 people. Those,
Yeah.
they're winning some of these, the platinum awards, and we have Jason, an intern, and some great volunteers. So, great achievement by our Parks and Rec folks to be recognized nationally for our rec program here in East Goshen Township. Budget workshop number 2 will take place next Tuesday, the 28th. The first one we did last Tuesday, we talked about the general fund budget. On the one on the 28th, we'll be discussing the, basically focusing on all the other funds besides the general fund in that workshop. We have 4 workshops scheduled actually. First time this year we're trying it in this kind of format. The second thing is, the third thing actually is the Township Yard Sale is Saturday, October 2nd. Residents in condos and apartments can actually call to reserve a space at the Township building. All other residents should call to get their house on the map that will be published for the yard sale, which is a popular event. And finally, our food truck and music festival will take place in the park on Saturday, October 16th, beginning at 4 p.m. We expect a crowd. We don't have any public hearings tonight. We do have emergency services reports. We'll start with Brenda.
Hopefully this is on. There we go. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by sharing an announcement with everybody. We're very pleased that this year we're going to be participating in the Faith and Blue initiative, a national initiative that takes basically a 4-day period and encourages police departments to create events where they get an opportunity to sit down with residents and hear their concerns. It gets its name because one of the things that we do is we reach out to all the congregations in and around our area and personally invite the leader of that congregation to share it with their congregation so that they know that this is an excellent opportunity. We're very pleased. We plan to have the flyer available in about 7 days. We'll make sure that the township is given a copy of that. It's going to be challenging because I did not realize the date that we selected is the date that you just announced, October 16th, but we'll work around it. And we're planning on doing cones with a cop where we provide ice cream to individuals as a way to help smooth the conversation. With regard to statistics, I'd like to share some statistics. Year-to-date calls for service up to mid-September was 7,703. That's higher than 2020, but lower than our pre-pandemic levels in 2019. What's concerning to us is in the month prior to this meeting, East Goshen's calls for service not only reached the pre-pandemic levels, but they exceeded it by 7.5%. We don't know if that's a one-off or whether it's going to be a future trend, but we will continue to monitor it. With regard to events that happened in East Goshen in the last 30 days, and this is going to be all of August, there were 21 disturbances or domestic violence incidents, including 2 arrests for simple assault, 18 frauds or scams, 6 civil disputes that required police intervention, 4 thefts, 2 missing juveniles, 2 missing adults. All of them have been located. 1 pursuit, 1 child abuse, 1 commercial burglary, and 1 alcohol investigation. With regard to other trends or other concerns, during the last several months, there have been some very candid conversations about police operations at township meetings and police commission meetings. As a result of that, residents have reached out to us to initiate conversations and to ask questions. To those individuals who did that, thank you for your interest. That means a lot to us. For those individuals who might have an interest in being active in police operations and what the police department does, I'd like to remind you that there are 3 ways that you can keep on top of police operations. The first one is to attend a police commission meeting. They're held the fourth Wednesday of every month, which means tomorrow is the next police commission meeting. It starts at 4 o'clock and it is held in the training room of the police department. Because we know that doesn't work for a lot of people's schedules, we also take very detailed notes and we put it on our website. If you go to our website, along the top ruler, you'll see police commission meetings, police commission with a drop-down menu for the meeting notes. And I'm happy to announce that starting in October, we will be videotaping our meetings and they will be broadcast on a YouTube channel the following day. So that will give you 3 ways to keep track of what's going on in the department. We value transparency and we value your input. Any questions from the board?
No.
Did you need me to stay for public comments or not?
That we can usually do that under public comments, which is much later in the meeting.
I would just suggest if there's any public that has a police-related question, we just do it now.
Yeah, we could, anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And Carmen, are you doing the,
Yes, sir.
You wanna do it from there?
No,
he needs the
I
practice.
need to practice. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board.
Hi, Carmen.
The first thing I would like to do, not fire marshal related, is again, thank the township, the board, and everybody involved for the dedication and housing that we had at Bellingham for the Bellingham Hives, and for the absolutely wonderful award that you bestowed upon me. It took me by surprise. Even seeing Christine out there, it forced me to drop a tear. So, thank you very much. The calls for August of 2021 will be for East Goshen only. For Goshen Fire Company, for EMS, Emergency Medical Services, we had 329. You see the breakdown in your minutes as far as what the call types were. Fire calls, we had 48. Fire police, we had 30. I did send Derek and David an email, I believe it was Sunday. We did have a fire at Windermere that came in Sunday afternoon. I am still out of service, but the fire board called me just with an FYI. It was not bad, a little bit of damage, smoke, slight fire, and it was unattended smoking that was the cause of the fire. So again, I did not respond. That's why you didn't get a full fire report on it. And I did send it to Derek and David. So for Malvern, we had 28 calls. We had 9 basic life BLS, and we had 19 ALS that required transports. And for Good Fellowship Club, we had 54 calls. A little bit low on their percentage, 9.5. They run anywhere from 9 to 12%, as you see in all your backup information. The fair was one of the most successful, probably ever, as far as turnout. I think people were finally to the point where they just needed to get out. We were socially distanced as best we could, which is pretty tough when you're trying to get donuts, of course. But it really, the turnout from the community was absolutely phenomenal. The 15, and you'll get a report from the fire company, but some of the other fundraising events, they sold out immediately because people were just, after a year of not being able to do anything with the fire company, they were very generous. So thank you, of course, obviously, for the township with everything you do for Goshen and the rest of the departments. I won't bore you any further. If anybody has any questions, you can ask Joe Buono. No. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to address them. not,
What Carmen was referring to at the Beehives was our dedication of a bench to him for his, not only his 16 years of service on our board, but also his work as fire marshal, volunteer fireman, and all the other things that he does in the township. We need more Carmens in East Goshen Township.
50 years, and other than including my family, probably a little bit more as they were growing up, I would do it again in a second.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Questions? I'll bid you adieu. Have a good evening. Thank you
Have a good
very
night.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Carmen.
Also, should mention in the chairman's report that we did get the $2,500 apiary grant from Giant Food. So Carmen will be teaching 3 little youngsters how to be beekeepers with a grant from the Giant Food Market. So that was really kind of good news too.
If I could, they included in that some clothing. So Jason and I are going to be going over a list of basic bee clothing for like maybe one for like a young adult. I have a bunch of spares, so I can dress probably 3 or 4 people to have actual hive demonstrations and eventually bring them to the hive at some point.
It's great.
Thank you.
Another thing we do at Parks and Recs. All right, next item on the agenda is the financial report. I'm assuming Dave's not here.
I'll take care of that.
You're going to do that, Chris?
Yes, I will. So, Mr. Chairman, as of August 31st, the general fund had revenues of $8,275,708 and expenses of $6,530,372 for a positive variance of $1.7 million. And as of August 31st, the general fund balance was $7.1 million. Our expenses year to date are lower than budget, primarily due to the police expense timing versus budget, and the $219,000 that was reported in the revenue section that will be in the expense section. As far as revenues, again, they're higher, repeated from last meeting. EIT collections are increased, residential and commercial sales are higher, and also building and permit and fees are going strong. So for Dave Ware's year-end projection, he is projecting a surplus of $188,000 at this point. He also reported on the other funds, and included in your packet is the typical summary showing core, non-core, as well as Dave's new version, which shows revenues and expense variances. He highlighted some comments as to different topics, what makes up some of the larger variances there. So hopefully you're happy with that report. I know some board members were asking for a different format, and that was Dave's presentation. So I'm happy to present those financials on behalf of Dave Ware.
Thanks, Chris. Any board members have questions at all?
No questions.
Before everyone gets too excited about hearing about that $1,069,000 positive variance on the budget, you heard it, there's some timing differences in there, and so the projected year-end is surplus of $188,000. So it's a great to not have to be able, hopefully, to withdraw from general funds to zero out the budget for the 2021 budget year. Sounds good news. Thank you, Chris. So we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. Anybody have any questions about the minutes as presented?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not have any questions. I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes from the Tuesday, September 7th meeting as they were submitted.
I'd like to second the motion if you can hear me. Okay. Dave's microphone on now.
I have any questions. Any members of the public have any questions about the minutes from last meeting? If none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. receipts and expenditures. I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions either.
No questions here.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we graciously accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and as summarized in the treasurer's report.
Second motion.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? I'll call the question. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Under old business,
Yeah, this isn't actually old business, Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify that, I just figured I would get Scott Nelson out as quickly as I possibly
yeah,
can.
actually under other matters.
Oh,
So go ahead and introduce.
So, I guess from time to time, East Goshen and other municipalities do get legislative updates from their U.S. Representative's office. Scott Nelson is the senior constituent advocate for Representative Houlihan, and he is here to give us a legislative/congressional update.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be back. This is my third time. Yes, we have 92 municipalities in the 6th district as it currently exists. I think it's going to get bigger early next year when they redraw the lines. But I wanted to share with you one thing that has been of great interest to people in Chester County after Hurricane Ida, which is that the FEMA Disaster Center opened in downtown. I think it was on Monday, and I have that address if anyone's interested. It's at Ashbridge Square Shopping Center, 945 East Lancaster Ave in downtown. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then Saturday, 10 to 5 p.m. You can also reach FEMA at 800-621-3362. There's also an app, a FEMA app, just called FEMA, for iPhone and the Google Play Store. Then the SBA, Small Business Administration, set up a center as well. There's disaster relief for small business owners, and the number to reach them is 800-462-7585. There's additionally another phone number to reach them at, which is 800-659-2955. So, hopefully the damage wasn't too bad here in East Goshen. East Town was last night. One of the purposes of us coming around every year is to make sure that people understand the ways in which their representative in Washington, that office, can help them. Probably the biggest thing we do in our district office, which is in Westchester, is casework. So that's helping people get the benefits that they're entitled to, but for some reason, the behemoth that is the federal government and all its agencies and departments are shortchanging them in some way. Sometimes that's VA benefits, Social Security disability. We can help with those things. If you haven't gotten your IRS tax refund, or maybe your stimulus check didn't get to you, there were 3 of them. We can help with these benefits, these entitlements. We have special congressional liaisons designated at each agency and department. So help with passports. Basically, if it's a federal matter, we'll probably be able to help you in some way or give you some resources. We also help townships and nonprofits with federal grant applications. So there's a lot of money every year for different federal programs, transportation, education. Every department gives grants. So we write letters of support, and we've been successful in helping a lot of townships and boroughs get money. One other thing that we do is we have educational opportunities. We have a congressional internship program for college students and recent college grads. I think we get about 15 to 20 interns per year, a few times a year in DC, Reading office, and our Westchester office. So that's something someone is interested in. We're always taking applications and resumes. We also host Congressional App Challenge, and we have the privilege of nominating, I think, 20 highly qualified students for appointment to the, to the nation's service academies each year. Finally, if you're going to be visiting Washington at some point in the future and you would like tickets to any of the many free cultural institutions and museums down there, we can help you get the tickets. There's a tab on our website for doing that. That includes White House tours when they resume, Capitol building tours when those open up again. Currently, they're not doing that, but at least the fencing came down, so that's a good sign. And then lastly, I just wanted to share a couple legislative highlights from the American Rescue Plan that was passed earlier this year. People have, in all this talk of infrastructure, people kind of forgot what we already did. It was quite substantial. It was $12 billion for Head Start, $36 billion for Title I grants to local school districts and public boards of education, $32 billion for veterans crisis support, particularly for suicide prevention. There's a pandemic or an epidemic of suicide among our veterans in this country. Because he's a former Air Force captain, so at least she feels really strongly about supporting veterans. We got $650,000 to Chester County Department of Facilities for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations, $2 million to the Borough of Sinking Springs to reline roadways and crossroads at an intersection to improve the business district. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about with municipalities. Over $4 billion for new passenger rail improvement, and it really targets the Northeast corridor, which we're in. And there's a bunch of other ways in which we got money for Pennsylvania and for this district, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Scott, I do have a question for you, a couple questions real quick. Do you have any idea when the Capitol tours are going to begin again? Has there been any indicating that's going to happen?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that, but so we have actually a staff worker in our DC office, and he takes care of all that stuff. So he might actually know, but I haven't communicated with him about that recently.
Do you know if the monument, the national monument is open now? Are they taking tours up into the
Washington Monument?
Washington Monument?
So I was there right before COVID, and the elevator was broken, and they said it was like a 4-year repair project.
So probably not. Okay.
Yeah, and you wonder how could that take that long? But they said it was installed in 1812, and every piece has to be handmade, and so I don't know. Maybe they're getting close. There is a website I was on the other day. It's like what's open in Washington, and it was really helpful. And actually, I was surprised how much is open right now. So most things have gone back, and most of the museums are, but they're doing timed entry, so you do need tickets. Fewer people.
So to the Smithsonian, that kind of thing. So you can help with that kind
Absolutely,
of thing.
our office can absolutely
Our
help with that.
constituents. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important because there are so many great resources down in Washington, and you all can really expedite things. And I encourage all of you, if you're veterans and you haven't been realizing your veterans benefits, contact Chrissy's office and get that started. They can help expedite that process, and you can get what you deserve.
That's so true. And to that point, we keep track of how much money we return to individual constituents who were entitled to something that they weren't getting, that we helped them get. And just in 2021, we're approaching $4 million returned. We, I want to say that we had between 6 and 7 returns last year. It was a little harder last year because so many agencies were not functioning, but we've been quite good at that. One other thing about what we can do for you at the Capitol building, if you'd ever like a U.S. flag flown over the Capitol to commemorate your visit to Washington or for another occasion, we can do that. We can get that flag to you. It comes in a special presentation, so that's kind of a nice thing. And our office is also open to our constituents to visit in Washington DC. It's in the Longworth House building. If you ever need to just rest your feet, see where your congressperson works, charge your phone, get some free chocolate, water bottle, that's open to our constituents as well.
Don, I have a quick question.
Yes.
We had some damage here from Tropical Storm Ida, and we understand that FEMA has opened up the individual assistance program for small businesses and homeowners. Do you have any idea when public assistance might open, or if at all? So because we had damage, and we'd be able, I think, to apply under the public assistance.
I don't know the answer to that question, but my understanding is that that question would be answered by the FEMA office in Downingtown, and they're fully staffed up since Monday to answer any and all questions relating to Tropical Storm Ida. Thank you.
So is that phone number that you gave us, the 800-621-3362, is that the FEMA office locally in Ashbridge that you mentioned in Downingtown?
So
Or is that the national number?
it doesn't actually specify on the document that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, the specific shopping center office doesn't say it has a phone number, it just says use the 800 number. Maybe they would connect you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We were so happy when that office opened, because we've been getting calls constantly about this issue, as you would expect.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Anybody in the public have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the tax return.
Yes.
Last year, 2 members of my family did not receive their return for 5 months. Went through your office, you guys pushed it off to another group. What do you think it's gonna be in 2021's return?
When you say they didn't get their return for 5 months, do you mean like their refund?
Yep.
Okay.
One member, we filed on the same day
Yeah.
electronically. One got it 2 weeks after, the other person took 5 months.
Yeah.
Contacted your office several times with no response.
Oh, so
So I'm
sorry.
just kind of curious, I'm not,
Yeah.
that's been
Yeah.
resolved, but we got the returns.
Yeah.
But what are you projecting for 2021?
So, were they mailed or were they filed
Electronic.
electronically? Okay, that is.
Like I said, they're already,
yeah.
they already got paid, even though it was
Right,
5 months
right,
late, but I'm
yeah.
just curious about 2021.
Yeah,
Has things changed, procedures put in place to speed that process up
Yeah,
like
so-
it used to be?
I can tell you this because I work a lot with the IRS. They were about as poorly set up for a work from home scenario as you could possibly be as an organization. Like, they have these 5 centers throughout the country and their model was everybody goes in, all the documents are stored at a central location because they take the privacy information of taxpayers super seriously. So everyone was supposed to go into these offices, work in their cubicles. The idea of working from home, that didn't exist at the IRS. They had these old computers from, literally they're still running Microsoft DOS, which is laughable, but they say, oh, it's never been hacked. They're constantly getting updates and for their software. It's not a good environment for work from home. They've taken a long time to pivot to that. And one thing and it's particularly bad when people mail their returns in because all that stuff got sent to the IRS. It would be unlawful for them to take their documents and work at them from home. Like, you couldn't do that. So that just sat in storage for like a year in some cases. They're getting better at work from home. People are getting laptops, and they also had an enormous number of retirements during COVID. And when they hire new people, it's a 6-month ramping up process of training how to do the work, plus FBI background checks. But to that point, Congress has given them more funding to hire more people, update their technology. Chrissy co-sponsored this thing called the Taxpayer First Act, actually right before COVID. It's a 5-year ramp up to get that implemented. And we are seeing now, like in second half of 2021, much speedier, expeditious processing of returns. Don't think it's going to be as bad as it was, but it's still not great and it's still not where it needs to be.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes,
Thank
yes, sir.
you.
Thank you.
You use the.
Sounds like Bruce.
Get it in 10 days.
See you next year.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is discussion on the, under old business, a discussion on power purchase agreement that we talked about in the last township meeting. Eric, you want to give some background to this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this has been discussed at a few meetings here at East Goshen Township. It's also been discussed at the Westchester Area Council of Government meetings for, I guess, over a year now. COVID's kind of distorted my notion of time, so I think it's been a little bit over a year now of just going back and forth. And the whole idea was to get together with neighboring municipalities and come up with a purchase power agreement for all of us, and that means essentially buying energy together, which is a little bit different than we do it all separately now. But the other component of that was you're grouping together to get clean energy in order to get a good price on the clean energy. Essentially, what happens is we need to have a contract to have somebody build us a project that would produce that clean energy. So it's essentially an energy agreement to know where our power is coming from and what the source is, and it's supposed to be clean. 6 neighboring municipalities in total, and it's a 3-year price fixed, but the contract overall is 15 years. I think at the last board meeting, there was some question to that 15-year term and whether or not legally, at least, regardless of if board members want to, legally, we can do that with this type of contract. I did include a memo from Ms. Kristen Camp, our solicitor, who gave sort of the background of why she thinks it is a legal contract to go under. Apparently, there's a distinction between these type of contracts and governmental contracts, which would not allow to go for a 15-year term. So I guess we've, again, discussed it in COG for over a year. It's been here for, I think this is either the 3rd or 4th time it's been to this board. So, I guess the hope is that it is decision time one way or the other for this board to sort of say yes or no to the PPA. So that's.
Okay. Follow question.
Yeah,
We can't just call the question. We have a motion that's worded one way, and I'm not willing to enter into this 15-year contract for anything. Particularly when the price is locked for only the first 3 years. This is, it's like purchasing a timeshare, and then you buy it, the cost is, it's affordable, but then the company continues to raise their costs, and then you have no way of getting out of the contract. So you're stuck with this for 15 years. And I have a hard time doing anything for 15 years. We no longer have a mortgage. We don't have any loans that go that long. It's just, in my opinion, it's not a good idea. So the motion as it is, I would actually want to change that motion.
So it's a 15-year contract with 3-year, is that a 3-year rate guarantee, and then it can change after that?
That's
Yes.
correct.
And the rate could change up or down
That's correct.
after a 3-year period of time, I think so. So just so everyone knows, historically, at one point, we were at $81 per 1,000 kilowatts, or per megawatt. Back in 2011, as recently as 2021, we were at $53 per megawatt. What the county and the 5 other municipalities have agreed to is to enter into the agreement at a rate not to exceed 51 cents per megawatt. We are at 47 right now. Our pundits that visited us earlier are expecting the carbon-based rates to increase in the future as we get more and more clean energy purchasing power. So again, I'll repeat that what you're doing with the power power purchase agreement is basically funding green infrastructure. And that's why it's a 15-year contract. We go in with 5 other municipalities, we enter this agreement, and then the facility actually builds out either wind or solar or whatever, the renewable energy to provide the energy for the township, and it's for our use for our building. And so that's where we are right now. So the draft motion would be to move to authorize East Goshen Township Manager Derek Davis to execute a 15-year clean energy purchase power agreement with an initial 3-year energy supply contract commencing in 2024. The other thing I wanted to mention, in conjunction with the Westchester Area Council of Government Municipalities, I would add, like the other agreement is not at a rate not
To not,
exceed
yeah,
51
that should be part of the motion, that was
Yeah.
my fault, to not exceed
Not
51
to exceed
megawatts an
$51
hour.
per megawatt. So,
Correct.
so that is the draft motion. Michelle has made her comments. John, you have any comments? Any comments from the public?
Technically, we don't have a second.
No,
No.
we don't have a second, but we can still,
Technically what?
we don't have a second.
No, it's technically, you don't have to take public comment unless there's a motion in a second, but you can. There's nothing precluding you from doing so.
All right, that's-
Bill Geyer, 1560 Tanglewood. So I know I sent the email last week about the financial review process, and may have it later. We published a letter. Thank you for that. So on this topic, I guess I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of describe how I would use that, terminology-wise. I read through this proposal, clarified a couple items, but it sounds like it really truly is fixed. It's fixed at a maximum cost of 51.
For the first 3 years.
Only for 3 years.
Only for 3 years.
And that's not a bill, that's a proposed not to exceed. So they could, depending on how many municipalities participate, they could come back and say the rate will be $57 instead of $51 or $47,
Okay.
but it won't be higher than 51. It'll be 51 or lower.
At the same time, if the rates went down to $30 and they figured they wanted to charge 45, they could under this contract.
Okay. So, assuming that it was a $51 per megawatt, kind of the way I would have approached it is to say, okay, it's a direct cost, I just compared it to the current cost, direct cost of $8,700 roughly annually, of increased direct cost. Then looking at, Derek, the details. So you're saying right now, historically, over the past 10 years, you've done these, or the township has done the rate renews every 1, 2, or 3 years. So it's an average of 2 years. So if it's a 15-year contract, instead of doing it every, say, on average 2 years, you're doing it once, presumably, over 15 years. So how much time is spent doing that? It's probably a full day for someone to go through, look at the rates, and come up with a proposal, a new proposed supplier. So let's say the rate's roughly 75 an hour. You can say the soft savings there would be, you can compare the effort to do it every 2 years versus once every 15 years. And I've calculated, about a $240 roughly soft savings each year. So then you could say, okay, now the proposal, if it was 51 even for 15 years, $51, it's an annual increased cost of $8,700 less the labor savings of about $260. So maybe $8,400 increased cost, but you're going to save 3 or 4 hours of staff time a year. Now, I'd ask, well, why would you propose to increase cost? Maybe it would be risk mitigation, for years 2 through 15. We don't know what the current cost would be. The other thing that would be really sweet, if that was the case, is to actually, employ something like that, would use the free time, the time that's freed up to look for other direct savings that would offset any increase. So that's the type of thing that I would be looking for, as a commentary summary in any of these types of proposals. So that's really,
And keep in mind, this is almost like the airlines buying jet fuel futures, right? They buy at a certain rate, and you're kind of betting that carbon-based energy is going to be more expensive in the next 15 years, and that renewable is going to be less expensive. But as we learned with jet fuel, sometimes it can go the other way. So, that's the bet here, is that you're funding clean energy. Hopefully, the infrastructure will be new, and maintenance will be less, and the rate will stay low. Again, keep in mind that over the last the last 10 years, we went from an $81 rate to a $70 rate to a 65 to a 53. It's almost like bad timing. If they would have come to us 5 years ago with this, we would have jumped at it, because we were paying a lot more than $51 a megawatt. So, Russ, you have your hand up.
Russ Frank, 451 Gateswood Drive. Excuse my ignorance on this question, because I never really saw anything on this or read anything, but is there a take or pay in this contract? So if you don't use it, you still gotta pay for it?
It's just the usage. It's just whatever we use as far as,
Yes.
as far as electricity.
So you're not guaranteed to use these at all?
No.
Okay,
It's based
We're
on
not
historical.
guaranteed users.
Okay. Thank you.
Joe, do you have a question? Or a comment?
Actually, I really can't add anything to Bill's commentary, but I'm totally against Giordano, Heron Lane, 1606. I don't like giving my address.
So we'll be around later.
Huh?
We'll be around later.
All right. Especially not in 15 years, because really where everything is going right now, it's almost like the tower. We went from a central tower for telecommunications, and now we're doing bursts. And this is becoming obsolete. So you're getting less and less every month, shall we say, as the years go by. Nanocrystal technology is here, and it's already in process. Nanocrystal electricity is here, and that's going to be on an individual unit basis. And the only thing you have to do is pay for the capital costs. No transportation, no fixed capital costs, no variables, no nothing. And the projection is anywhere between 5 and 7 years. It's not pie in the sky. It's here, and it's here to stay. You have no problems with environmental problems, with windmills, et cetera, et cetera. It's a standalone system. So instead of investing, shall we say, a lot of money in something that's going to be obsolete in the very near future, you might as well ensure that your expenditures are correct.
Thank you. John, you would like to answer a question or comment?
Yes, plans with
I was just gonna say, I'll second the motion, first of all.
Okay.
And secondly, I can't support, committing for 15 years when we don't know the cost. I know we'll be under 51, but, other than that, we don't know the cost. What that 15 years does is allow some outside company to build a facility, that's probably me, to build a facility, and, after 15 years, they own it and we don't, we pay for it. So I don't see this. If you want to put solar panels on the roof or something like that, and we pay for them and we own them, okay, I'll go along with that. But I can't see a 15-year commitment with an open-ended cost.
All right, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye, opposed, no.
No?
Motion is defeated 2-1. And we'll know if you guys were right in 15 years.
Years. I hope we're all here.
And in 5 years, when the rates are $80, I'll say, I told you so. I'll be sitting out there. We need to consider submitting applications for the 902 grant program for our totes. As you all know, we did a recycling toter program and a pilot program in the township a few months ago. We bought 100 lidded tote, 65-gallon totes. They were gone, I think, within an hour. People came down and picked them up. One of the issues with recycling totes is, you know, the township used to give out the small green non-lidded containers, and we have trash on windy days all over the place, and the cardboard and stuff on rainy days gets wet and then gets rejected by the recycling center. So the tote program gives us covered recycling that's we booked already, and it's our recycling materials have gone up. Everyone needs to understand that the rate we pay for recycles is less than what we paid for trash. So the more we can get into the recycle bin and out of the trash bin, the better we are overall for our budgeting. The people above that got their tote programs for the containers responded to a survey. For the most part, they really liked them. And so we're looking to expand that program for the remainder of our community. The other thing to note is with a covered tote, some townships have been able to work a program where you can take the plastic coatings for like paper towels and Ziploc bags and things like that, and they actually go into the mix stream instead of having to take them down to the supermarket. And that's only available if you have the covered tote program. So that's something that we could pursue. That's been a popular program, and you may know that we put 2 bins in the park to collect those materials to build a park bench. We did that a month ago. We already had enough of those plastics to build a park bench. So it's been a huge, those bins have been stuffed every day. So it's been a very popular program. So with that, Derek, you want to give any further comment?
There's not too much more to add, Mr. Chairman. It pays 90% of the costs. The breakdown of everything is on this memo as far as what Jason proposes to do. I think there's the 65-gallon would be the standard, but then he is proposing a mix of some of the smaller 40-gallon toters just in case there's less appetite from some residents on having a larger 65-gallon toter. The timeline is this Friday as far as application deadline. So if the board were to approve this tonight, we would get working on it right away and submit it by Friday.
Question, Derek. What's the size of the green bin?
20.
1. Okay. Just as a comment, we hardly ever, it's just 2 of us in our household. We hardly ever fill the 20-gallon one. The last thing I need is a 65-gallon one or a 40-gallon one to drag up the driveway. I have a long driveway. So personally, I don't see this as a good idea. And the other thing I want to know is if the grant is 90%, how much are we hit for?
It's actually in the suggested motion on the second page. It would be $19,000 as a matching fund towards the grant. That's 10% of the overall cost of the implementation. And our share could be used for distribution purposes, which is an important point. That it could be used if we hired Blazinski or whoever to distribute the toters. So
I have a couple of things to say. So recycling program, the bag recycling program was very successful, but let's be perfectly clear, it's ended. The SAC was responsible for maintaining this, the Sustainability Committee was responsible for maintaining that program, and it was very difficult for them to get enough volunteers to go in and retrieve all of those bags every day, and they had to do it every day. There were a lot of nasty comments from their residents saying, you can pick out the banana peels, you get paid for that. They were treated very poorly by a number of residents, which is very disheartening. I'm a little concerned because one of the things that is in the notes here, it says, Blazinski confirmed that they would not switch to automated service for the length of the contract, which means that if they wanted to, they could switch us over to an automated lift service at some point. And I have concerns with that because a lot of our older residents are just not in a position where they're able to roll those large unwieldy containers and put them at the curb in a certain way on a certain day of the week. And I don't think that it's fair to put them in a position where we might have to do that at some point. If that happens many, many years down the road, it's a whole different story. The payback is over a number of years, it's 4 or 5 years. This is an additional cost to the refuse and recycling costs that have increased. We had to pass that cost along to all of you who use the recycling and refuse program. We don't know what that increase is going to be. We're working that out with the budget right now. But this is also an additional cost. You figure if it's $19,000 divided by all the residents that are on the program, it's going to cost you that much for that toter, whether you like it or not. And that's going to be a cost that gets passed to you. I think that it's great that we have excited recycling folks in our township. I recycle a lot. I've got solar on my roof, I've got geo on my ground, and I've got an EV outside. I think that there are ways to recycle and do it in your own way. I'd rather see it that it's left up to the individual. I don't want to have to force this on anybody. And I don't know how we're going to find room in the budget for it if we don't pass the cost on.
Yeah, it's my understanding it's voluntary, that we wouldn't be forcing the residents to continue to use the 20-gallon containers if they elected to do so.
But still, we're going to have to end up passing the cost on.
Anyone want to make a motion? Well, the cost is, we're not passing that along in the refuse fund. I don't believe that would be just it's an $18,000 expenditure in the 2022 budget one time to purchase it. So it's passed along indirectly through our tax revenue, I guess.
I was going to say, I can make the motion. I move to authorize no more than $19,000 in matching funds for a DCED 902 grant to fund the township's wheel toter program and authorize application.
I'll second the motion.
Any public comment?
Yeah, I was involved in the initial pilot plant program that we did, and the response was very, very positive from the people we got. And Tom Kilburn, Jefferson Drive, 312 Jefferson Drive, was very, very positive. And we actually, two, three of us went around and had a conversation with people about whether they'd like to have the toters. We did a survey to see how many people had actually already bought them. I guess from my perspective, this is an opportunity to provide the township, many, many township residents, with something of value that we're going to get from the state. So if you decide not to go ahead with this program, you're leaving $160,000 of money on the table that you could pass along to our residents. And I just think it's kind of short-sighted and, kind of foolish to not take advantage of this opportunity, get this grant money, to just leave it sitting. Guess that's how I look at it, Michelle. And because you're not forcing anybody to take it, you're right, there is some small cost, but the small cost spread over all the, over all the residents is gonna provide a much bigger value to the people that are gonna get these bids.
Thank you, Tom. Could we be clear on what the motion is?
Yeah, what was the motion?
The motion was as it was, I moved to authorize no more than 19,000 in matching funds,
Okay.
just so that we could have a motion on the floor, so we could have a discussion about it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, so you just made, okay,
Yes, you made a suggested motion
So we can open
to apply for the 9.
that's fine.
Any other comments?
So if I like to take the tote, so when I sell the house, that stays with the house, like the green bins do?
Yep.
And how are you gonna track the tote that you gave me is the one that I still have? And the only reason I bring that up is because in Booth Wind, they have scanning devices on each of those totes that they have in that township. So if one gets lost or stolen, it can be picked up by the trash company when it's scanned to go into the dumpster and say, this is not the right tote for this house.
I don't know if there's a chip in these or not, so I wouldn't know.
I don't believe that was part of this proposal. I mean, people steal totes, it happens, so it's just one of those things, and you hope that it doesn't happen much, but to totally prevent that, you know, it could happen.
That's why the Booth Wind plan protects the homeowner if it is stolen. The one good thing that I see about this or hear about it is I already have 2 blue 32-gallon loan purchase totes. And when it becomes a rainy day on Tuesday, and I got all this cardboard sitting in this, I got to hold it on for the next week. And hope that doesn't rain next week because I don't want to put it in trash cans that I won't fit in. So there's the benefit that I see, small benefit to me for having the lidded one. You know, but sounds like somewhat of a good idea. Would take another trash can for free.
That's right.
Thanks, Russ. I'm just not sure if it's gonna be a benefit to as many people as.
Other question?
I will call the question. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Motion defeated. Go buy your own tote. All right. Under new business, we have experienced difficulty with our microphones and public participation in our meetings because of technology. So we've taken part of our COVID relief funds as allowed by law to consider upgrading our AV equipment in this room. And let Derek add the.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we did, after authorizing the COVID relief funding of the portion of it, $35,000 to enhance this room with AV upgrades, microphone, hybrid setup so people can participate from home, more of an automated, plug and play situation for all of us. And I think it's going to get rid of a lot of headaches up here at the DIAS. So myself, Susan Diamore, the office administrator, and Dave Ware, finance director, we did some digging. We got proposals from 3 companies, and their proposal sheets are in this packet. Newer Technology, Haverford Systems, and also Vistacom. All very solid options, all very, very good companies. Haverford Systems was by far and away the most expensive, and we didn't really see them coming down to a point where they were going to be competitive, so they were out right away. The other 2 was a little bit of a tough decision, but we decided to go with New Era Technology. They're a very local company. What we felt was they provided even more of a plug and play opportunity to have it as automated as possible. with an interface up here, just being able to press a button and have Zoom rolling pretty quickly. There was an option that we looked at to have a big screen TV on one of the walls here so that people sitting in the back could more easily see presentations. That put us over the $35,000 allotment. So what we are suggesting is to accept the New Era Technology implementation for $34,571.20. And then at some point in the future, after that implementation, we get used to it. If we think that's still a good idea for a TV display somewhere out there that people could easily see presentations, then we can have that conversation in a subsequent budget year. But for now, we did the legwork, and I am asking for the board's approval of the New Era Technology proposal.
Mr. Chairman, I would actually move to accept the New Era Technology proposal of $34,571.20 for main meeting room AV upgrades, and authorize the township manager to sign said proposal and start the implementation process immediately.
Yeah, actually, just and one more
Let me second the motion, and then you can talk.
one more comment. I was going to see if they can move quickly on the mics before. If it's not going to mess them up too much with implementing everything else, I would like to get new mics in here ASAP because I can't service these anymore. So it's becoming a real issue.
So, discussion, we put the $35,000 cap. This is money from the COVID relief funding. The option of putting the additional television of $33,952 is, I'm assuming, interactive, on the wall here. If it enhances audience viewing and participation, that's kind of what we're going for.
Well, it would not enhance the hybrid portion. What it would do is enhance the live audience's ability to see. If we're having a budget workshop and Dave puts everything on the screen, it would tie in with these three screens. And, where the gentleman sitting in the back, or Christina, if you can't, just say somebody forgets their contacts or something and you can't see very well, we can have a 55 or 65-inch screen on the wall.
Is that to say that we can use these with the new system?
Oh yeah, that was all three proposals. We were going to tie into the existing TVs.
I think we're spending enough, and if we had 3 TVs. Let me say one thing, if I may. I support this proposal not only because it's good for us and for this kind of meeting, but because all of the ABCs, the authorities, boards, and committees, and the task forces can make use of this room and of these facilities if they want. Most of them do. And so we're doing this not only for ourselves, we are doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it for all the boards and committees.
That's a good point.
Plus, Jason has a lot of activities up here. It'll make it a lot easier for him to implement some of those activities, so.
Comments from the public?
I bet this is Russ Frank.
Yeah. Is this going to improve the streaming on YouTube at all?
That's the goal. Yeah,
So
that's
are
definitely
you
the
not
goal.
going to see the delay that we're seeing today?
So that's the delay itself is because of YouTube and how YouTube ties in with Zoom. So we're still working out the kinks in that way of how we want to implement that. But if you still view through YouTube, you will get that delay. But the hope is to have the option of at home, if you're going right to Zoom, no, you shouldn't have that delay. So it's a YouTube versus Zoom thing, not anything else really.
Mhm. But during the pandemic, we weren't able to have access to Zoom if we weren't a certain member of criteria to be on there. So we had to watch everything on YouTube, and I found that very frustrating.
Yeah, so, and that's another internal discussion we were having amongst ourselves. I was the assistant manager somewhere else for 7 years. When we did meetings like that, we gave access to the video meeting we didn't have Zoom, we had a similar platform. I guess there was some worries of hacking
Right.
in some ways, and that's what was explained to me. I think we got to get around that, and I haven't even had a conversation with the board about that yet, but I think we need to be able to give access to Zoom. I mean, that's what the hybrid setup is, in order to have people view it live without a delay and with as little interruption as possible and make sure we protect ourselves against any sort of malware or things like that. But to me, it's not a good enough reason to say you can't participate via Zoom, you have to do it through your phone. That's just my
That's what it
personal
was,
opinion.
but, then one last general question. What's gonna be the retention of these, recordings? Like the Zoom meetings that we had currently and up to date, what is the retention period on those
I don't know.
versus this new policy?
So there's no retention. So whatever we put on Zoom is eventually going to get uploaded to YouTube. So the ultimate library, so to speak, will still be YouTube. I don't know what the current retention policy, if there is one on the YouTube channel. I'd have to look into that. I know a lot of people just do it in perpetuity until they find out they're running out of space and have to put a retention policy in there. So I'd have to look a little bit more into if there's a retention policy in place here.
I think that's pretty, for me, that's a pretty critical answer because,
Sure.
you know, with all the meetings that are going on,
Mhm.
Weirdly enough, for us, the official record of all meetings and retention by a class 2 municipality are the meeting minutes.
yeah, that's my concern, because the meeting minutes are such a truncated description of what was discussed, where if you could fall back on YouTube or whatever it is, you can actually
Yeah.
see and witness what was actually said maybe a year ago.
Yeah, but it's funny, in Township Code, it actually it specifies Township minutes, or the Township meeting minutes must be kept in a 3-ring binder.
Right.
Nobody does that anymore.
So I'm just curious on that part.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to look, and I would say no less than 3 years back. I think
If
that's
anyone's
just,
interested, there's YouTube video of me skiing in Telluride that's at least 7 years old. So I think they must be on there for quite a while, but it's good collecting.
Yeah, you can check me out parasailing too.
Yeah,
So.
thanks again.
I think that's actually a question that we need to run by
Sure.
VDP stats to see if there's any state law or maybe I don't recall
there's no
seeing a
state
retention.
law. I haven't had this discussion before I even started discussion. It's so new of a thing that it hasn't really come up yet.
Okay.
So there's no state law on it. But there are probably best practices for PSATs that I don't know about that I'd have to take a look at.
Okay. I just want to call the question.
Yes, I will call the question. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next is a request from Pipeline Task Force to send comments to the Chester County Emergency Management Coordinator. I think these comments are spot on, important, and
In that vein then, Mr. Chairman, I would move to allow East Goshen Pipeline Task Force to submit their requested comments to Chester County's Emergency Management Coordinator and/or any other individual deemed appropriate at the county's Department of Emergency Services.
Second motion.
thank you. Just for general, these comments are how certain pipelines are classified with regard to the impact level. And we felt that they were, the Pipeline Task Force felt that they were classified too low a level, and that the level should be increased given all of the information we have from all of the studies that have been done by various independent groups. And so we're encouraging the county to upgrade those levels. So any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Those are great comments, Christine. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Finally is consideration of resolution, a declaration of disaster. We've done this before. We did it for COVID, actually. It's important for local governments to declare a local disaster. The reason we do it is so that we have access to funds. And this has to do with Tropical Storm Ida. And the question I asked Scott earlier about the availability of public assistance money. So my first question, why don't we just do a motion and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we accept, we execute Resolution 2021-208 a declaration of a local disaster emergency.
I'm sorry, I second the motion. I think I have a record for seconding.
So my first question is, have we made an effort to identify and quantify our actual damages in preparation for applying for this grant money?
Yes, for the public damage that we've had, we've identified 3 or 4 with Mark and I going around the township. And yes, we have a pretty solid idea, because you bring up a good point. When FEMA does activate public assistance and we go in to fill that application out, we're absolutely going to have documentation of what our losses are. So yes, we have.
So my second question is, have we submitted any of those to our claims to our insurer? Assuming we may have some cat coverage for flood and storm.
So that is an interesting question. Right now, I would say the biggest hit we took was the Hershey's Mill Dam, where it wasn't anything catastrophic, but it did set us back quite a bit on some weeks. And the issue is a little bit convoluted now, because we have a contractor working on it who technically did not hand the site over to us yet. So if that wasn't the case, I would have absolutely reached out already to property and liability. The problem is we kind of have to work through them, see what they have, what's their insurance look like. We've had a few back and forths with them. They didn't have flood insurance, so they're looking to see what kind of coverage they have through the regular insurance. But we did not submit these smaller ones as of yet, but Mark and I are working on it.
Okay. I think it's important to do that. Actually, there was in one of the PSAP's memos, they were providing some assistance to put claims in with your insurer around the tropical storm Ida. So.
Is there any chance that disaster relief will include the hours worked, especially the night hours worked by the night?
We already actually talked about that, and FEMA does allow for hours worked. Now, it depends on the specific disaster and how much money is available, but you can absolutely put in, for example, overtime and public works and things of that nature. So we're gonna put everything on the wall and see what sticks type of thing. If public assistance is activated, that's the key here.
So
This is the first step.
at this point, Derek, do you have any a monetary, Joe, if you want to talk, come on up, Joe.
No, I just have a comment.
Yeah, come on up. I just want to know, is there a monetary amount that's been assigned to any of these individual losses? Thank you.
So, for example, the biggest one with Hershey's Mill Dam, looking at it with the contractor working on it, we're estimating around $30,000 in damage with the Hershey's Mill Dam project.
Okay.
So a lot of that is, having to get more material that was washed away, and then the extra labor that cost to fix it. So that's the big one. There's some smaller issues that Mark and I ran into with head walls and things with culverts, and those are a little bit less expensive, I would say, in the range of like $5,000 to $6,000.
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, but those are, put it this way, when I was looking at the totality of it, I was just grateful we're not, downtown in central Chester County right now, but it's something for sure.
Thanks.
I just wanted to comment, you should look into builder's risk on either policy and your property exclusions to see if the culverts, et cetera, are covered.
Yeah, the question is, as you know, is windstorm or flood, we always have that argument, right?
Well, there's a twist in there, and it's geared towards the municipalities, especially if it's in a pooling arrangement, because the pool is exclusively for municipalities. So a lot of it's work. It's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, well, that's an assignment, I guess, for Mark and Derek and Dave to
Good to call that
explore with
question.
our insurance broker and make sure we have a detailed quantification, whether we're going to apply for a grant or submit to an insurance claim. And we could submit for a first-party insurance claim on the dam and then have the insurer subrogate against the contractor for any negligence they had. But, you're getting into force majeure and flood versus storm and let the professional handle it.
Do you want to call the question then?
I'll call the question. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Any other matter?
If I may, I would just like to recognize Park and Rec Commission and Jason Lang for the work they did on the art walk
Oh, yeah.
last weekend. Michelle was there.
Fantastic, yeah.
It was very well attended, and I was surprised at the attendance, and I was pleased. And we also did a bench with a plaque for Janet Emanuel, who had served, I think, 40 years in
Mhm.
different positions for the township. So I thought that should be recognized.
That was great, John. I spent a little bit of money there myself. I have also another piece of news that Carmen actually just sent me a text a little bit ago. And he said he misspoke when he spoke of the fire call that was the apartments. It was actually at the Metropolitan Apartments. So not what was it, Windermere, did he
Yeah,
say?
wait a minute.
Yeah, so it's actually, it was Metropolitan. He asked if that could be corrected, please.
Service announcement, smoking is bad for you.
Smoking is very bad.
All right, public comment.
Anybody have any?
All right, we have no liaison reports, correspondence, we recognized the correspondence from Bill at the last meeting, we distributed copies of that, and Bill has been communicated with, from various board members, so thank you for your comments, Bill. Yeah, we've gotten several compliments on the art walk, community day. We got some great compliments, nice comments. It's nice that people take the time to say nice things every once in a while when you get compliments about services that we're offering to the community. We appreciate it. They go very well appreciated and noticed, so thank you.
Mr. Chair, with the understanding that we have an executive session afterwards, I would like to move to adjourn.
Ooh, I'd like to second that. Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. How'd it go?